Good morning, traders. It is 8:02 a.m. Chicago time on Tuesday, the 29th of November, 2022. We're quickly approaching the end of the month here. This is episode number 2366. Derivatives trading is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. First thing I'd like to pop in here this morning is the event contract voting. Would really like you to participate here. Go to eclear.me/event contract and vote which way you think the market's going to close versus yesterday's settlement. We need at least 100 votes to put these positions on, and I invite you to go and do that. So please take a moment. The link is in the YouTube chat. It's also on my Twitter feed. Currently, we only have about 30 votes or so. So please go ahead and vote. Okay. So let's dive into what we've got today. Today we have another mixed open with a balanced profile in the S&P and across the indices. The Nasdaq's up 21 points from yesterday's settlement. The S&P is basically flat, trading around yesterday's settlement. We had this morning Bank of Nova Scotia and a couple others, nothing major in terms of earnings. And then after the close, we have Hewlett Packard and Intuit NetApp. The news really circles around, as it did yesterday, it circles around China. The unrest there, the protests against the zero COVID policy that has been pushed out by the Communist Party there, as well as Xi Jinping. And the people are kind of fed up, and it has had a tremendous impact economically on the people. And so they're kind of tired of it, so they're standing up to the government. So this is a big deal. On top of that, the railroad unions, and there are, I think, a dozen unions or so related to the railroads, who have to ratify a deal asking for better pay, better work conditions, the typical stuff that unions would ask for. This is heading towards a strike and is becoming a major issue. If the railroad unions go on strike, you'd have a very immediate and far-felt supply side issue here in the U.S. President Biden was urging Congress to intervene and get this taken care of. So this is looming on the horizon and can definitely have an impact on the indices. This morning, we had lower inflation numbers out of Germany, Italy, Spain. And then looking ahead, we've got Case-Shiller, which just came out, U.S. Housing Price Index, and then we get Bailey's and so on. I'm not going to go through the calendar. It's not a good use of the time that we have here. Let's take a look at the S&P. The S&P, again, balanced. It actually is becoming a multi-distribution profile, but in general, it's balanced. It's revolving around the yesterday's settlement, and the inventory is 93% long, which means 93% of the volume traded above yesterday's close. The range is actually quite low. Now, if you recall, if you traded yesterday traded quite a bit like it was a holiday until it released to the downside, and expecting more of that today. When we met yesterday, we talked about how it's likely to be a pretty choppy day coming into the session. So expecting the same. The fact that we've got such a tight range overnight really is giving us a preview of what to look for on the open. Okay. Again, don't forget to vote. Let me look at what we've got here. All right, we're getting close to our target. Keep voting, please. And so what do we have? Let's take a look at what was expected yesterday. This is me today. That was me yesterday. In order to avoid any confusion, let me turn that off for a second. Yesterday, the primary idea behind scenario one, given how we were opening, we're opening below below where we were trading late last week, specifically Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I completely wipe out of my charts. Can't really do that in Edge Pro X, but in my Investor RT, I remove those days. They don't count. They're not complete trading days. And yesterday we were opening below, so with a very heavy, with 100% short inventory. The expectation is the market's likely to pop higher. I was expecting it to pop into 40.10 at least before it turns over. And if you recall, the targets yesterday were 85, 85. The overnight low 85. So we're always looking at the overnight low. 85 and 67 being the key target. And so that was the primary scenario. The secondary is if we push through 40.10, especially if we have an impulse and we hold that 40.10 area, we're looking for 40.32 with the gap to settle trade. But the primary scenario is a test up immediately on the open and then selling from there. Those of you in the Convergent Trading chat room, the Mavens chat room, saw that early on, I looked at the short side once it failed to continue through 40.17, and I was looking for the market to continue lower to 67. That was the key target down here, as discussed yesterday. Here's what actually happened. Let's look at yesterday. Here it is. We opened right here. This is a 1 tick by 8 point and figure chart. We immediately push up. We break through that 40.10 into 40.17. We push right back to 40.17 before we start to sell off. The expectation is it might pull back and hold for a continuation. So there's not much to do here on this push higher from the open. We're waiting for it to fall below the day-generated levels of the VWAP and mid, full session, and RTH, and then to retest from below. And it managed to do that again. I don't remember where the short setup was. I didn't go back to look, but the idea is to get in here somewhere and look for it to take out the 92, the 85. This low here is exactly 85, and then ultimately to get back down into the 67, which was right here. The 67 being the MC point of control, and it managed to do that. So it broke through the 10, which was right there, so it pushed farther up than expected, and then it finally extended the low down, and it managed to get to the 67 as expected, and it actually pushed to 60 and a quarter to close at the low. This is a relatively bearish close yesterday. Not sure what's going on with my profiles. Let's see what's up. And then since then, we haven't done anything really. We've just sat sideways. This morning, this is crude. We've pretty much sat sideways this morning, not doing anything. If you look at today's action, there it is. It's just kind of this lumpy profile, not much to look at. Key areas left behind from yesterday, again, this 85 area, which is basically this morning's high. This morning's high is 84. This is an important early line in the sand. Important line in the sand. Multi-distribution profile yesterday on a relatively light volume. The point of control at the low end of the range, and we are opening on top of that. So all in all, this is a chop fest, a very likely chop fest here coming into today's session. So be careful trading this morning because it is very, very likely to be choppy this morning. I don't see anything on the calendar. And in terms of new events that would cause us to believe that there's some sort of some sort of catalyst to push this through. So one thing you want to notice about the overnight session, that test of 85 right up here was done with a spike. And so what we have is consolidate, buyers come in, push it higher, and then we end up with limit orders sitting in the order book and getting lifted. Single prints at 83 and a quarter yesterday, getting lifted into the single prints, and then sellers come right in and hammer on the bid to bring it right back to settlement. To me, I don't want to read too much into it because it's overnight action, but to me, this looks like a rejected attempt at the 85 here on the overnight 84. So to me, this looks like it is very, very likely to spill to the downside. The one big catch here that you want to look at this morning, again, the volume is actually pretty decent at 226,000 contracts, but the one big catch is that we're opening right against prior settlement, right against the prior point of control. We're opening in the overnight point of control. We've got some room on the room above to the full session mid and VWAP. Those are 39.78 and so on. But overall, we've got we're opening in a pretty noisy area. So the expectation last week is that we would roll over and push down. Remember, we talked about how 40 is going, 4,000 is going to be very hard to hold on to. We went to 40.50 and came right off. And the expectation is we would go down to 67 to base. And then from here, we would decide which way to go. Where do I get these from? If we look at what it has done, essentially, we have pushed higher, pulled back, and we have come back into this balance zone. And it's really important that it holds these prices into the 39.20. My expectation is it's likely to continue lower. It does not look like it has found buyers. You want to know what it looks like to find buyers? Just look at crude oil. This is what it looks like when you find buyers. You have a gap, a big gap down. You have a major level at 75 here, major area at 75 right there. You have a market that opens and it does not extend the IB down, and it pushes right back into the middle of balance in crude, and it finishes in that balance. That's what a reversal looks like. This is what a genuine reversal looks like. We can look at it again here on the intraday. Again, market went down yesterday, was down quite a bit. Consolidates, is unable, multiple attempts, is unable, and then we open and it immediately pushes higher and it finishes in the upper distribution right against the purple line on here, which is the magnet, and it's basically rejecting prices below that 75 area. This is what a reversal looks like. The S&P hasn't shown us anything like that. What the S&P is doing is it's consolidating near its most recent lows. To me, this looks like it is not done finding buyers, and it's likely to continue lower, potentially to challenge last week's low at 37.50. But most likely, the number we would want to keep in mind is this 39.20.15 area. Okay, so the S&P does not look like it is done buying. It took forever to get it to sell off yesterday for maybe 15 points. It was really hard sitting there all morning expecting to get flushed out of a trade all morning. And then it finally, once it tagged the 85, it bounced from the 85, came down, tagged the 85 to the tick. And so we had a double bottom at the low of day, which has a statistic associated with it, a relatively high historical probability of that low being broken by the end of the session. So that's an indication to just sit short, and then it finally flushed through. with the help of Bullard's comments. Very, very timely, pushing us down into that 67, down into 60. And to me, so this brings us back into this balance here. And it doesn't look like it's rejected that balance. Maybe it'll do so today, but not. It has not given us a sign that it'll do that just yet. Okay, let me look at where the votes are at the moment. I just need a couple more votes, people. So just look at your live chat on YouTube, scroll to the top. There's a link there, eclear.me/event-voting, so we can put these positions on for charity. It looks like most of you believe that the S&P is going to close below 3970 today. Most of you believe that the NASDAQ will close below 11616. Most of you, let's see, 57% of you believe that the Russell will close below 1832 today, and overwhelmingly yes to the crude closing above 77 and a quarter, 75% of you. And then for the 6E right now, it looks like the overwhelming majority expect the 6E to close above 1.0354. And we'll just go and put those positions on in these event contracts here. We'll select a strike that gives us a bit of an edge, and we'll put those positions on for charity and hold on to them until the close today. So be sure to vote so we can get the final tally before we close this off. Let's take a look at what's expected for today. There's a lot going on between the event contracts, tomorrow's futures radio show, and the iWatch giveaway. It's a lot doing. So here's the overnight. Very poor action in the overnight session. We're opening right in here against settlement. We're unchanged in the S&P, expecting an open auction, expecting this thing to give up the low. I'm expecting it to move lower and start to chop around in this area right here. Okay, so I'm expecting a chop, and potential test of prior week's low before we pop back in and finish in that 3960 area. Not expecting too much action today. As I said, you really want to mind your risks today. The alternative is an open that pushes lower, gets an impulse up, and then challenges that 84, 85 area. Remember, the 85 is important here, double bottom from yesterday, and a key stock zone in this area, 85, and then pull back and then finally take it out to bring us back up to the 4,000 for balance, back at the 4,000 to finish the month. So this is, in either case, with the pre-market telling us we only have about 24 points, don't expect too much. The volatility is contracted, the rotations have contracted, so your stops and targets should contract. You can sit here and demand a 30-point target, but this market is not likely to yield that very quickly, so it's important to scale out. I use harmonic rotations for that. We share those rotations with you in the CT pre-market summary sheet I showed at the beginning. There's a gray table there that shows you that. You can find that you can get that by following Conv Trading on Twitter. So twitter.com/Conv Trading, and you'll receive it every morning. We update the rotations every week, and you can use those to gauge how big a stop and how big a first target you need in order to create an asymmetric risk or to cover your risk. Just remember not to be too demanding today. That's the key point. Thank you for all who voted. Let's see. We've got... All right. Wow. Man, you doubled the vote just now. So we've got what we need. Here's what it looks like. Let me show you what the votes look like real quick since you're participating. All right. Sorry. Here's what the votes look like. So for the S&P, we're expecting to close. Most of you are voting that it'll close below 39.70. The Nasdaq below 11,616, 65%. The Russell, 66% are voting for it closing below 1832. This is the settlement price, which is at 4 p.m. Eastern for these products. For crude, it's at 130. Most of you are voting that crude will close above 77.24, and most of you are voting, wow, look at this, the 6E. We barely have a winner here. 51% expect us to close below 1.03, and we still have votes coming in. Actually, we still have responses coming in. We're up to 146 responses. I appreciate you participating in this and being a part of this event contract program. And we'll put the positions on right here after hanging up with you. Good luck today, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Hopefully you learned something today. Take care.
Energy news from Beaumont in Texas.